All right, we got a lot to talk about on episode 2 of the Chiefs Collective. Day 2 of pads came and went. We got right tackle battle on our hands, 1v1s to talk about. Mitch is going to break it down. Nate's going to fill us in. I'm going to try my best to bounce back and forth and QB everything. And with that, let's get to it. Nate, Mitch, how are you guys doing? It's been only a few days since we've last conversed, but how's everybody doing?
I'm doing good. Still in my air-conditioned basement. How are you doing, Nate?
Yeah, you're doing better than me, Mitch. It just dawned on me that I will be back at Missouri Western State University in about 12 hours. So it's only going to get better from here. Third day in pads. So yeah, looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, maybe they can get up to 2 hours in practice time tomorrow. Maybe.
I would hope. I know Andy wants that, so we'll see.
Yeah, there's been a couple days in pads. We've already seen a couple of injuries, or just injuries kind of mounting a little bit, especially on a couple key position groups. I figured we could talk about that. I mean, the newest addition for sure was Christian Fulton today with a hip. Were you able to get anything more than that, or did they keep it very vague, Nate?
Yeah, they usually like to have Andy give the update, so he will talk to us tomorrow, so we'll have a better idea about that. But look, we did see him today out at practice, so I wouldn't think it would be too concerning. But it is a little bit tricky when you're like, all right, first day in pads, he's a veteran, something happened. So I'm not worried about it, but yeah, we'll have more tomorrow. But, yesterday when the Chiefs were in pads for the first time, Christian Fulton was with the first team defense because, as we all know, Mansour Delane is not cleared for full contact. So as of now, he's still obviously in the mix of the cornerback battle, but we'll know more tomorrow, hopefully from Andy Reid. But I don't think it's anything serious.
Yeah, you're getting a little bit thin at the cornerback room with Delane and the shoulder, and it seems like you've talked about it a couple of times yesterday on the drive with Carrington Harrison, but would love to hear your thoughts on this here if you have any updates. But it seems like Mansour Delane's shoulder is a little bit more serious than a shoulder tweak. In the sense of if you tweak it mid-June and you still can't have any contact on it 6 weeks later, I mean, I'm taking that as more than a shoulder tweak. What are you getting from that? And then, Mitch, if you want to talk about the state of the cornerback room at all, would love to hear your thoughts because you've got Delane with the shoulder. Snead is ramping up slowly.
Yep.
But now Christian Fulton's out as well. That's 3 of your top 4 guys working through something at this point in time.
Yeah. I never thought it was a tweak. I was just hoping that they were going to have, the rehab and some physical therapy and that I don't know if it was just pain within his shoulder. I guess there would have been to some degree. But the issue that we've learned now is that the medical staff is not comfortable with the imaging of his shoulder, whatever's going on with it. And so they want that to be fully healed whenever he's, gotten the clearance to take off that yellow jersey. He looks so odd compared to everybody else on the practice field because you just don't see a yellow 5 playing defense. And he's doing as much as he can in terms of, hey, keep him, my feet active, trying to stay conditioned. He's not totally off to the side. One of the cool things is I don't know if you've ever went through this, Mitch, but like he's in the huddle. He hears the play call from Nick Bolton, the quarterback of the defense, and then he like sprints to the sideline. And I mean, this is for every 7-on-7, every team period that we see, which is, of course, 11-on-11 against the first team offense. So it sounds like it could be a couple weeks. I told Carrington on the radio yesterday that if the Chiefs had a preseason game this weekend, it doesn't appear like he would play. And so I think there's real concern now as to whether or not he's going to be available for the first preseason game. But that's the update we have. I don't think there's anything of a huge concern about opening night. No one has said that to me. But I do think the team's plan for him for the preseason has probably been altered at this point.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty concerned. Not something you want to see. And I mean, if you want to start with Fulton, last year it felt like the fan base was like, why isn't this guy playing? We signed him. I mean, people wanted to make $10 million out to be like this huge contract, not a big deal. But
Right.
why isn't he playing? And the reports we got were just like not fully healthy and hasn't worked himself back into shape. And then, we saw him a couple of weeks at the end of the season when season was over. And of course, I mean, we as fans didn't really know what to look for from the cornerback position, but we were like, hey, he looks pretty good. Why wasn't he out there more often? So the fact that, you start off camp and the second day in pads, all of a sudden a hip injury is, notoriously not the most fun and not the easiest to just kind of get over. Could that be nagging? Could that be something that all of a sudden you got the hip and now you're compensating with the hamstring or the knee or the calf or something else? Like that's definitely a worry at such a twitchy, quick position. So
Yep.
yeah, a little bit of worry there. And then with Delane, I mean, he was supposed to be the Trent McDuffie replacement. I mean, quite literally. And they said, after the draft, we got him. He's versatile, gives us maybe a little bit more scheme versatility than Trent did, being able to play man coverage, zone, kind of some of the Spags disguise stuff. So I don't really know what a yellow jersey for DBs means, especially early on in training camp. You're not doing a ton of hitting anyway, especially at that position. Maybe they just don't want like Kenneth to run full speed into him and kind of, bury into him when he's expecting to get the ball punched out. But if that's the case, like if you can't take a helmet to the shoulder of a guy who's not necessarily trying to break your tackle, just trying to like be strong, that's also worrisome. So
And
yeah, I would say
I'm so happy you said that, Mitch, because I didn't want to be the one to say it. You're the player. You've done this in the past. They're just thumping right now. I think like maybe
they will go live.
Yeah.
Then you
but
pull them
that's
out of
later.
live periods if you need to. So yeah, Coach Reed is one of the few guys that still does go live. And when he does, it's not ones versus ones, it's ones versus twos. So if Delane was out there, it'd technically be against the second offense. Not that those guys are weaker or less strong or whatever, but just in the sense that like that's how Coach Reed does things. He tends to get into that more on the short yardage goal line days and throws in a couple drives throughout practices. Typically whatever it is, a week and a half into training camp, you would have already been, a week into pads. You would have started the live days. I think he used to go live maybe on the fourth pad of practice, fifth pad of practice. But now with the ramp up period and all that, he'll probably go live in the next few days, maybe creeping into next week before the preseason game. So yeah, from a defensive back perspective, you're not doing a ton to use that shoulder. You're not, kind of throwing yourself in there. If you are, you're theoretically wrapping up. You're not like going in there to thud up high. So yeah, if they're saying he can't, wrap guys up and absorb contact from running backs or receivers, I mean, I'm not going to pretend like the receivers are necessarily bringing more thump than any of the running backs would be. Yeah, that's more worrisome than I thought it would be heading into camp. And to the question, no, I've never been in a huddle, taken a break, and then gone and either played my position and just not been allowed contact, or been the 12th guy in the huddle to go in the opposite direction. I get the idea of it. Like, you want to keep them mentally engaged. You want them to hear what it's like coming from Bolton and all those things. But no, it looks like maybe special circumstances. And I guess the positive thing we can say is that they think he's far enough along that like that is beneficial to him, that it's not just like, all right, he's going to need September off and then we'll get to him in October. Like they still want to keep him as engaged, mentally as possible. But yeah, it's definitely worrisome between the pair of those guys, because it's two people that I think the team is relying on. Whatever the fan base wants to think of Fulton, I think that is something, defensively that we're still going to rely on this year.
Yeah, so you've got Fulton, who was injured a lot of last year, had a knee cleanup procedure in the offseason, and then I can't remember what the injury was, but it was like week 1 or week 2, very early on in the season, he got banged up again.
It was the knee.
It was the knee?
I'm pretty confident it was the knee. If people remember, they weren't, I don't think they were saying this publicly, but they tried it again, I think in like late September. It obviously had some swelling, some pain involved, and then they said, okay. Now, to be fair, they had Trent McDuffie, they had Jalen Watson, so it wasn't like a dire situation. But their hope was, okay, he's not going to be really available for the Buffalo Bills game. We'll have the bye week, and then we'll ease him back in against the Denver Broncos after the bye week. And they did that, and the results were not good. So then they said, well, let's slow it down again, and then we'll slowly build you up. And unfortunately, by the time he was ready to play, was against, I think, either the Chargers or the Titans. And at that point, they were eliminated from the season. So the knee was a little bit to Mitch's point, nagging or just lingering over the course of the year. The Chiefs think he should be fine in terms of that, but yeah, you don't want another thing to just pop up right when training camp is starting to get really interesting.
Yeah, what gets me a little concerned just as a fan is you're talking about Fulton with injury history from last year that affected most of the offseason. And then the first day in pads, he's getting dinged up, and it could be pretty minor, and that's the hope. But then you have Delane with the shoulder that's longer than expected. And then Snead is kind of one of the next guys outside of Noel Williams, but he has been banged up for a while. A couple years with the Titans, only played half the year each season, or roughly.
And my understanding or my projection is, does L'Jarius really need the preseason? Maybe not, but you could maybe feel comfortable letting him get as much time, a longer ramp up, right? That thing could be like a I'm trying to think of a carrier aircraft, like one of those giant ones from like Star Wars. I guess you could let that thing load up for like a month before we get to like September, and then you say, okay, like it's go time. But
as you know, I mean, to interrupt real quick, the Chiefs don't really do that. They don't. No, it's just like you're healthy, you're out there. You're not healthy, you're not out there. Push to get on the field, and don't really do vet days. Like, so that would be a little bit of, again, another kind of special circumstance kind of thing. So it'll be interesting. But does he need like all the work the way maybe Delane does to like hear the play calls and to be in the huddle and all that?
Correct.
Like, no, he doesn't need that part of it. But does he need the physical aspect of going against Thornton, going against hopefully Xavier when he's healthy to like mimic what Waddle is going to look like in week 1, like what some of those other guys like. Yeah, the physical side is the part you can't just like go out there and just expect to have your timing and your quicks under you when you haven't when you've been that Star Wars jumbo jet that's taken off on a slow descent.
Yeah.
Before we switch to the wide receiver room, with the cornerback room kind of in the state that it's in, who was the next man up that you saw at practice today working with all these guys kind of banged up?
So, interestingly enough, Noel Williams is the top guy. He's been the top cornerback so far in training camp. I've really liked his development that you can clearly see from year 1 to year 2. And then you're getting into the mix of like, okay, is it Jaden Kennedy? Do we want Christian Roland Wallace to get some stuff on the outside versus just exclusively being that nickel? I know people are like, Nate, don't tell me this, but like, we can always bring Chamari Conner down into the slot just to give it a different flavor. Steve hasn't made any like crazy changes. Now, again, it's just one practice from having Fulton to not having Fulton, but it is fascinating to know that they are still saying, hey, do we want to see Kader Kohu? Okay, do we want to see Kyer Elam? Like, they get a couple, handful of the reps, but to Mitch's point, they haven't made it to 2 hours yet in practice. So even the team periods are 6, 7, maybe 8 reps at a maximum, and that's splitting a little bit of the first team getting the bulk of the work, and obviously the second team coming on right after that.
You said Chamari Conner in the slot, and one of my lights went out. Darkness was creeping in.
Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah, I did. I was just trying to be dramatic.
Yeah, I looked at you and I said, hey, just, to be fair.
I noticed that too.
See, Steve Sagnolo said, in a pinch.
He did.
And then my hand kind of wanted to be like.
The pinch is here. That's the problem. The pinch is here.
Like, what does that mean? Yeah. And then we now see that, like, okay, if you don't have 3 of your guys, that might be the circumstances.
Shout out to Chamari Conner, because your boots on the ground, Nate, but I feel like he's having a pretty strong camp.
He is
playing pretty much exclusively over at safety, and that's where we've been politely asking. Well, some not politely, but some have been wondering why he hasn't been playing back there.
The advanced metric says he should be playing at his more natural position, but yeah, I think I don't think they're asking him to do a ton of like the Justin Reed of it all. I think that's what'll be most fascinating. One of the elements most fascinating in week 1 against the Broncos, like who necessarily takes on that role, or is it just a true split safety responsibility? Some plays it's Aloy Gilman in the back end. Some plays, obviously, you want Gilman to maybe take on a tight end of such. But they haven't said, hey, you're the Justin Reed of this. You're going to be obviously a chess piece of this nature. But yeah, he's done well. He caught an interception today. The defense is starting to, and this happens in camp, the defense is starting to get its timing right. Obviously, you can be a little bit more physical in pads, and at least from a ball skill standpoint, these guys don't have stones. And I think that's very helpful to one of the messages being, and Drew Tranquil said this, we just got to get more turnovers. Their two biggest statistics that they have to improve on are sacks and turnovers in terms of production. And at least you're seeing moments of that against Patrick Mahomes in the first team offense.
Well, Cole's about to bring it up, but how stoked are we against these quote unquote first team offensive weapons that they're going against? Is there a little bit of a sliding scale there that we're grading them on, or do we feel like
you're telling me you're not just jazzed about Andrew Armstrong? I can't even get his name right. Andrew Armstrong, getting first team reps. I've already buried Jalen Royals, unfortunately. Tyquan Thornton's out there. He had a really nice day today. So he deserves some acknowledgement. But Jimmy Holiday doing anything for you, Mitch? Xavier Lloyd, he's an Xavier, not the right one, but he's out there.
Is that like Brandon Lloyd's son? Because that dude was a baller.
I don't know. I'd have to look that up. He's coming from Missouri, and so there's some talent there. But Jason Brownlee made the team last year. He hasn't really jumped off as much as he did last year. Man, I know we're gonna get to it, but I was supposed to believe. I was ready to come on this show in episode 2 and say, clear it out for Cyrus Allen. They found their solution. They found their man coverage beater, and he has the.
Well, the other man coverage beater is Xavier Worthy, who is also not practicing.
Who's also.
If Spags wants to play cover 2, then yeah, maybe we can. Oh no, wait, Rasheed is also our zone coverage beater, and he's not doing all the reps. So nope. Travis, here's a couple more passes. Go ahead, Cole.
Let's process through the wide receiver room, because a lot has happened since we last talked, even though it was only Thursday. So Saturday, Xavier Worthy leaves with the shoulder sprain. That was a little bit quieter. We just saw, a lot of people seen the play. Worthy extended out for the ball. Great catch. Kader Kohu just happened to try to make a play on the ball and landed right on top of him, drove that shoulder straight into the ground, which is unfortunate. But from what I understand, it's a mild sprain. I think imaging didn't reveal anything concerning. But where it gets complicated, Mitch, and I'd love for you to weigh in on it, he had surgery on that shoulder. I've had 2 shoulder surgeries myself, same shoulder, labrum. Not exactly maybe the same as Worthy as far as how much the tear was and stuff like that. But you're always nursing that in some way, shape, or form a lot of times moving forward. So how concerned are we? Because Andy Reid was kind of well, he might be out there in the coming days, maybe later this week. He kind of put the timeline of Worthy and Cyrus Allen around the same time, but I don't know if that means anything at all when Andy says that.
I would say from what they've said, the whole day-to-day thing is more promising than not, in the sense that this theoretically should only be a few days and he's back out there. This specific injury, the flip side that is probably more worrisome than the positive is just you just got your shoulder sprained on by a guy that wasn't even trying to land on you. It happened on accident, all this stuff. He is small, he's slight. That is, the downside to drafting guys who are not necessarily outliers size-wise of the position, but definitely on the bottom end of the bell curve. Mm-hmm. You worry about that. You look at Deshaun Jackson in Philly, and I think Coach Reed's kind of been chasing that to a degree. Yeah. He was incredibly durable for his size. He was also so explosive and so smart with the ball that he didn't really take big hits, but he bumped into other guys and he didn't dislocate his shoulder. He got fallen on in practice, didn't have shoulder sprains. You look at someone like Tyreek, who's shorter, but incredibly, kind of stocky and thick and probably heavier than people realize for his height. So he didn't have the durability issues as much because he had 24 pounds of muscle than Xavier does. So you look at, I guess, just the injuries, even if this isn't a big one, they're starting to pile up in a way that's not very exciting and not in a way that you would just be this, 5'9", 5'10", 168-pound receiver is going to make it through a full 17 games and then into the playoffs and feeling good, when, again, his main attribute is speed, explosiveness, It's not like a guy who's already, maybe he's, middle of the average speed, but he's a great route runner. He can, make contested catches. Also one of his weaknesses there. So if he's not able to use the speed to get open as much and be a weapon in the offense, be a man coverage beater, and he's being thrown the ball and he's not getting the separation, like it just, this is one that I'm going to take the negative view on. It's not great for the team and, not great for my optimism about the receiver room staying as healthy as it possibly could for the coming season.
Well, because on top of that, when you zoom out, and Nate, I'm not forgetting that you might have something to weigh in about Worthy's shoulder, but when you zoom out, you also have Cyrus Allen, who, yes, he was getting just extra opportunities early with Rice out, but he was taking advantage of it. Yep. Nate, you reported he's climbing up the depth chart, was wide receiver 4. They're perceived to be wide receiver 4. He suffers the shin injury that we were all wondering if that was going to be way worse, just based on, he seemed like he was in a lot of pain, and a shin, like, that can hurt really bad. Yeah. So especially if there's swelling, Andy's talking about they're waiting on the swelling go down for Cyrus Allen to return. So you've got that going on. Anything you have on that, welcome to hear it. But then the Worthy thing, and then Rice, he is ramping up and was working in during sevens, as was Snead today, I believe. So they're slowly trying to get these guys acclimated, but you're not that far away from the season. At the same time, it's still early, but just what Nate said, you've got multiple guys kind of dealing with it, working through things, and we've had the pads on for 2 days.
Yeah, just 2. I thought one of the cruelest parts about that really nice catch from Worthy is, man, if he had just made this catch a day later, he would have had some actual padding to protect his shoulder.
That's unfortunate.
And
those guys don't wear a ton of padding on the shoulders. You know that. They're minimalistic at best.
Well, I was wondering, because of the surgery and because of what he experienced last year, was there going to be anything extra on the right side compared to the left side? So, I guess we'll figure that out when we see it. My initial thought with the Cyrus Allen collision with Elam was, man, if that's a knee injury, that is devastating. And he couldn't put any weight on his left leg. And we were wondering, okay, what is the training staff sort of attending to from our vantage point? He left in the front of the golf cart, and basically the Chiefs were waiting for hours in terms of the evaluation as to make sure everything was structurally sound. And then also, where is the issue in terms of the pain and what the treatment was going to be in terms of hopefully a rehab that wasn't going to take that long. It's nice to know that it's nothing broken. He's not done for the year or done for half the year. Cause I thought, based on the way that the cart came out immediately at practice, I just thought, oh my goodness, this is one of the worst case scenarios for a guy who really jumped out the moment that he was put, in the huddle with Patrick Mahomes. I think big picture wise, okay, you're starting to see Rashee Rice do some things. It's minimal, but at least he's doing some things. So you just want to see continued growth. You don't want to see stagnation or, of course, a setback. With Worthy,
are we allowed to make fun of that video, or are we just gonna?
No,
let that. It's I
your
get
thoughts, sir.
He's coming back. Yeah, I get that he's coming back, but that was kind of concerning seeing him run that labored that way on air. I don't know. It just struck me as someone that is pretty far away from being able to kind of run smoothly in the way we've seen him in the past. So, yeah, everyone was kind of getting their jokes off and stuff, and I have some that I like to make too that I've refrained already from making multiple times. But that's very concerning too. Just moving like that, and again, we're talking about these guys when they come back. What's Cyrus going to look like? What's X going to look like? I just haven't really seen a receiver move like that, and a month later be like, yeah, he's healthy. So I don't know, hoping for the best. Obviously, they're not going to put him out there if they don't think it's the right thing to do for him or for the progression. Right. I think the team actually over time has done a really good job at accelerating guys and getting them into, kind of football shape or better movement shape. But I don't know what you guys thought about that video once you kind of got past the kind of laughing, crying part of it. And if you had any real takeaway from it.
My first thought was, is that real? And then my second thought was, is this just his version of like a ginger, just like jog through, like let me get my steps?
It looked like he was going fast or trying to. That's the thing.
Yeah, the way the arms was moving. Yeah.
So my question to this is, Nate, since you've been there, you've seen more routes than that from Rice, right? If so, like today during sevens, was he moving around a little bit better than that or no?
Not really. You want to okay. This
We're
is
here
right
for
to
honesty. Lay it on us.
this is right to your point, Mitch. Has he run a route in the last 2 days that was longer than 10 yards?
Wow.
0 routes for the audio listeners. Nate held up a goose egg. Now, is that
They're easing him into it, kids. Easing him in.
Do you think he's going to be ready?
He has 6 weeks to get ready. There is no if. He has to get ready, in my opinion, for his benefit and the team's.
I have a question for you. This is an interesting one. Somebody said, whose wide receiver room is more cursed, the Chiefs or the 49ers?
Hey, there's no substation. Hey.
I feel like it still has to be the Niners.
Worse, let's be honest.
Yeah, it has to. Pearsall on IR, season-ending IR, Ayuk AWOL. What else? You got Mike Evans with a quad.
Yep.
Their first
George Kittle's coming back from the Achilles.
Oh, yeah, it's bad. Yeah.
No, they've had it much worse over the past however many years. They paid 2 guys huge money, and both they like cut or traded, I think, a year after.
In a year.
And they got rid of Debo quick. Obviously, Ayuk, they're getting rid of quick.
He's back now on a 1 year.
Back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to get into the jokes, he was the last guy to be dragged like that across the internet for running the way that Rasheed ran.
Yeah.
So, okay. So the Chiefs wide receiver room is a concern. People keep asking, can they bring in a veteran? And that's no disrespect. We were like all these other guys in the Chiefs wide receiver room. They're definitely trying. I know Andrew Armstrong stacking some decent days and there's guys, but it's like, what about a guy that you could plug and play pretty quickly here and he could contribute and he could at the NFL level? Is there any possibility the Chiefs could find a way to get money and get somebody added? I understand that they don't have a lot and you would have to restructure like Creed and or Trey or like there's several levers you might have to pull.
Mm-hmm.
Is this just, no, we're going to just rely heavily on Kelsey and K9 and call it good? Or
I would be surprised if they did it in August. This team feels more like, let's get through the preseason, let's get through cut down day. Obviously, they're a little higher in the waiver wire because they had the 9th pick in the draft. I would be surprised if they made a move that felt sort of sudden, like before the first preseason game or maybe after the first preseason game. That even removes the money aspect of it, which, again, they're going to have to come to their own terms about that because, as we talked about the cornerback position, I know there's been a lot of discussions in the offseason earlier about maybe adding an additional pass rusher. They're going to have to identify, okay, if we are going to use some of this money, if we are going to add someone, what position do we want to prioritize most? Now, I think some fans would say receiver for obvious reasons, but I get the sense that like maybe you do it in early September because of the way the calendar lands this season. You're playing on September 14th, so you get an extra day or two compared to like normal, or earlier years where the second Sunday is earlier on the calendar. But I don't see it. I mean, to be fair, can Andrew Armstrong catch a punt and do something? I don't know. One of the reasons that I think Dave Toub was putting Cyrus Allen out there was because he has a talent and a capability to do all the things on special teams. He was going to be someone that they probably gave the ball or said, hey, we know what we have in Nico in terms of kickoff return. Let's see what Cyrus Allen and Brashard Smith do as like possible number 2 options. Or do we want to put Cyrus Allen back there as a punt returner because he has pretty good body control. He's a very good route runner. He's got a little bit of a shiftiness to him. So it makes sense as to, now I don't know about Gunner. That's a whole different discussion. But at least you can see the special teams plus player addition of Cyrus Allen. I mean, is Andrew Armstrong this year's Jason Brownlee? Potentially, but that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to. I don't even know if that means he's going to be dressed on opening night.
I'm like, he caught like one pass, so I don't know if that instills a ton of confidence in me with some of these guys, even though, yeah, they're trying their best. On this note, though, Mitch, I think you maybe wanted to touch on this. How crazy is a former player for you, years in the NFL, to see a fifth-round wide receiver working in as a gunner on special teams, fourth day of training camp? I know a lot of fans did not like that. And the context is, well, you have a receiver that's showing out, a wide receiver that's banged up. Why not hold back on him? What is your thoughts on that and kind of your pushback to seeing a fifth-round rookie wide receiver working in on special teams before the pads have even come on?
Yeah, I mean, I get that we're all frustrated that he got injured doing that drill. Was anyone upset that he was doing it until he got injured? No. Have we seen any other receivers, DBs, linebackers get injured the first week of training camp before pads come on doing these types of drills? No, this isn't an inherently dangerous drill. One of the guys did the wrong thing. I think Cyrus was maybe the one that did the wrong thing and ran into the other guy or caused the situation. But it's not an inherently like dangerous thing to do. So yeah, he's showing out for 3 days of practice and for 3 other days against his other rookies. And the best guy he was going to go against isn't practicing in full right now with the yellow jersey like we talked about. So there's an element of like he's showing out, but he's still the fourth receiver. We have no idea what it's going to look like when the pads come on and physicality comes out. As good as the guys looked, like you just don't know. This is what practice is for. And guess who did gunner work in NFL action in live duty in 2016 as a rookie? Tyreek. We're not relitigating that, saying, "Oh, how dumb were they? He was, so good." Like he did it in games. He didn't get hurt. I get that the body types might be different and all that stuff, but like you have to practice stuff. Also, if he's the fourth or fifth receiver, come week 1 and we dress, what do we usually dress? 5 of them on game day?
Usually, yes.
How many guys are going to be capable gunners on game day? And then what if 1 or 2 of them gets injured? Like, don't you need to have backups to the backups on special teams? Like, you need to be prepared. So using the first week of training camp to figure out what a guy's capable of in a lower tempo situation, like that is the time to test that out. Yeah, it would be great if like we could just not play guys on special teams and not, give guys more reps and all that stuff. But I think we're judging the result. We're not judging the process. I think the process was probably fine. And we're way too ahead of ourselves in terms of anointing him off of a week of practice before pads have come on, before he's, touched the football with a guy in pads trying to get after him. So, yeah, you can, see the laughter and the giggles of the other 2 guys here. I think we're kind of both in agreement there. It's just like, I get that the fan base is frustrated, but also just like, you can't bubble wrap guys. And this, if you really want me to go on a rant, I think this kind of gets back to like the idea that we have to just like stop playing guys once the season's over, just like generally, the load management kind of thing, the
yeah.
I think this is just the general sentiment of fans these days is going towards this idea that protection, if it's not worth it, don't do it. It kind of ties into that mentality just a little bit for me. I know it's totally different, but I kind of got that vibe.
Yeah.
Just like, why wouldn't he be practicing a thing that he might have to do on game day that would be valuable for the team to have? Like when you put it that way, it just seems so obvious.
Well, that's exactly I think in a different way that Dave Toub tried to explain it, even though he knew, holy smokes, he's good. The best thing about it was he was like, no, guys, I don't think you realize like and I quoted him and it's on ESPN.com, but like Dave Toub was like, he's been good for me on special teams. That's why he's one of the first guys doing the gunner drill to begin with, right? So we have Nico back there. He's your veteran punt returner. He's not supposed to catch the punt. He's supposed to just give you the simulation of, hey, avoid the guy, make the, obviously down the ball before he gets to the goal line. I think Matt Ariza's quietly gotten better at that, which is why, again, I don't know. We don't have I don't think there's any video of what actually happened. We got video after he was,
there's video. You guys just aren't going to be able to see it.
Well,
there's no media or fan video.
Not from the team. Yeah.
The Chiefs
they may have already burned that bad boy. But like, we don't have fan video. Yes, that's a good point, Mitch. We don't have fan video reporters or videographers are not allowed to shoot during that period.
You know why there's no fan video? Because it's a gunner drill in training camp when pads aren't on. It is not noteworthy. It is not something we watch. It is not something we film.
And that's how podcast gold is made. Look, yeah, I was just happy I had my head up, because sometimes I'm taking notes and writing things down in my notebook or tweeting out other information. In some ways, I want to say, hey, Kyer, can you like shout that like I'm getting the ball? But again, I don't know. I mean, does it depend on what side of the field the ball was sort of being placed? Good question. But thankfully, Cyrus is going to be okay, and that we're going to see him, I would say, less than a week. I feel more confident about him than maybe, hey, if you want to give Xavier Worthy a full week, that's fine. It's a shoulder. It's been the thing that he had all of last season. So I understand that too. But yeah, Dave Toub being like, well, Travis Kelce plays special teams. And I was like, oh boy, Dave, don't go down this hill. But he's right.
Yeah.
He's right.
I think the McDuffie played a little too.
Defensiveness of the reaction probably didn't help.
Exactly. And I think Andy Reid has said it the best that we can translate it to the audience. This was a few years ago. I guess this is like my own personal camp story. A few years ago, this is not on camera. And I just said, Andy, man, like, are you sure? And again, this is just me being inquisitive. Are you sure? Like, you're playing guys for like almost a quarter, or let's say the first series doesn't go well for the offense. They're going right back out there. And, other coaches get skittish because there's all this work. There's all this attention to detail. You're game planning at this point, usually during the preseason for your first opponent. Like, what's the risk, man? Like, how do you weigh it? Like, why have you always been tried and true to this? And you know this, Mitch. He looked at me dead in my face and said, Nate, how do you get good at football? You play football. And he didn't say it with like the sarcasm of Herm Edwards of like, that's why you play the games. But he really was like, how you get better? You got to play. You have to play. You're a professional athlete. Like, we give you pads. We give you a training staff. We give you the conditioning program. We got nutritionists. We got the only way you get better at playing football is playing football. And I just think had Dave Toub said a version of that, I think it would have been easier for people to digest, because there's just no way around it. Like, practicing in shorts is cool, but like, you got to play in the games to get actual game experience.
Yeah, he did seem slightly defensive, but I was trying to just listen and trying to get his points without me filtering, or I'm trying to filter out my emotion essentially. And what he said about it's better to teach them now instead of the reverse. Like, if injuries happen in a game, you need somebody to step in. And it makes me think of 2022. McDuffie got hurt, and I think there was more injuries going on. And this is a kind of a different example, but L'Jarius Sneed, a veteran on the team, finds himself, I looked at the game logs not that long ago, curious. He's playing special teams because you have all these young guys drafted in 2022. You have McDuffie banged up, and Sneed, if you look at the game log, there was a stretch of the season, first half, where Sneed's playing a decent amount of special teams, or more than you would think as a starter. So it's just good to know, good to have that in your toolkit as a just in case. I promise, guys, we have some positive things to talk about. It just feels these are the biggest, heaviest topics right now, but we have one-on-ones that we're going to talk about. I mean, Peter Woods is showing out. We've got a right tackle battle to touch on, and we will definitely get to that coming up next. I did first want to shout out the season-long partner of the channel, Prize Picks. This is America's #1 sports picks app, and a big reason why me, Nate, and Mitch, we get to do this show. And I'm very honored to be a part of it. Here's the thing about Prize Picks. You can do player picks, so you just pick more or less on a few player stats. You can lock in your lineup, or you can pick teams if you want to pick winner, spread, or total on any game or fight. All kinds of sports that you could think of. I cooked up, you can't really see it very good on screen, but I cooked up a few things here, or had some help cooking up some things here for, let's just say, Chiefs Broncos week 1. I have Kenneth Walker getting basically a rushing or receiving touchdown. So more on half of a receiving rushing touchdown. Mahomes more on 244.5 passing yards. And then Bo Nix is more on an INT. We'll see about that, but that would be like best case scenario. Kenneth Walker gets a touchdown, Arrowhead, week 1. Mahomes lights it up, and then Bo Nix throws a pick. Now, obviously, we'll see what ends up happening there, but it's just the fun that you can do. They have season-long lines as well. And best of all, play your first 5 and get $150 in lineups if you win. Just use code HMA. That's the key. Again, that's code HMA at Prize Picks, where new users can play 5 and get $150 if you win. Also, Mitch and Nate, I did look up some of these season lines on the Chiefs. Kenneth Walker's line was like 960 rushing yards. Are you going more or less by season's end? Is Mahomes getting his first 1,000-yard rusher in his career in the regular season, or no?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Even factoring in maybe injuries and a couple of weeks off, I'm gonna have to say yes. I do think we've seen a lot more under center in camp so far. Whether 2nd and 8 in the third quarter, down 10 against Denver, and we'll see if they stick to that. But it does seem like that's gonna be more of the emphasis. And again, we keep saying offensive line wise, theoretically, this should be a pretty good run blocking unit. So I'm gonna go over. I mean, unless he gets severely injured, I do think. You look at last year and our expected, yards over, not that great.
The next one, Nate, Travis Kelce's line was at like 670 yards.
Ooh.
More?
I mean, based on the wide receiver situation, sure. I mean, one of the best things, and I hope people realize this 5 years from now, it's amazing that they're like, just pencil in the 36-year-old tight end for I don't know, maybe leading the team in first downs, receptions, yards, touchdowns. I mean, it's all plausible. I mean, he did it last year. And I just think one of the things I actually am applauding the coaching staff on for this training camp is how they are maximizing his reps without overextending him. And so you see it where Drew Tranquil's in pretty good coverage, and he and Mahomes are still
that throw today.
Yeah, absolutely in sync. And they haven't overworked him. It's cool to see Travis, and I mean he's done this before in the year, in previous years, still working on the run blocking, still getting involved in the 9-on-7 for a little bit before they take him out to try to develop, some of the younger tight ends behind him. But I'm okay with saying over because the durability has always been there with Travis Kelce, even when he hasn't been at his most athletic peak. And he's the one I could trust the most when it comes to like Mahomes' pass catchers right now. So I would say over.
Let's talk. We're going to talk some O-line, and maybe we can end it on a positive note with some D-line stuff too. But the right tackle battle, if there is one, and this is where we can weigh on Nate here with you being on the ground, but then Mitch, you talked about it a little bit last week too, but the pads are on. Khalil Benson is continuing to get more opportunities. What I'm hearing from the coaching staff is kind of, hey, we know what we have in Jalen Moore, but we don't yet know what we have in Khalil Benson, so we're testing him and trying to push him to the limit and see what's there. To you guys, is it more than that? Because when you look at Khalil Benson, he's played way more snaps on the right side than Jalen Moore, but never at the NFL level. So what are you kind of reading into that as we are now 5 days since we last discussed it or so, and the pads have been on, and Khalil Benson is still kind of working in before Jalen Moore?
I don't know if this has been, I have to take players' words at face value this time of the year. And everybody's raved about Khalil Benson in a way that has been really surprising. I think we as humans want our priors to be accurate, and we don't want to immediately shift course. But I mean, what if he does better tomorrow than he did today? Because he did better today than he did Monday. I mean, he's got the framework. I think he's got the upper body and at least, punch. That's more of obviously in Mitch's expertise. I'm still a little bit, from my eyes, it still feels like footwork could be perhaps maybe the biggest issue from what we saw in one-on-ones today and a little bit of the team period. But they're giving him all the reps. I'm floored, especially from what we talked about on Thursday, where I was like, this is fun. He's been really cool. It's a cool story. We have not talked to Khalil Benson, so we haven't gotten like his perspective. But I'm assuming that's going to change in the next couple of days. Based on the information we had, him being the first team right tackle today sort of declarates this as a true battle, I guess, and that he should be the one who's starting in the preseason. Just so, again, to your point, Cole, we can see what he has, because this is year 6 for Jalen Moore. Like, he's a professional. He knows exactly. He should know exactly everything in terms of the offense, because this is year 2 for him in the system. But this is as surprised as I could be. And I wonder, from your point of view, Mitch, like, the most interesting thing at Chiefs training camp is the position that you played. And I just did not have that when we started this.
Yeah, I have the same level of surprise that you do. I'm shocked. I said last week, we'll see what happens when the Pats come on. Well, Pats came on. He got the first crack at the reps. And then I think today he took all the reps with the ones.
All of them. All of them.
Yeah, that's a big deal. That's not something that's, again, I think I talked about last week. Coach doesn't do reps like equally. He doesn't have the 1s, 2s, and 3s having the same amount of reps. The 1s take more reps, and the 2s take a little bit less, and the 3s take less than that. And he does it on purpose, because everything for him is geared towards the regular season and getting the guys who are going to play the most reps. So even if you know what Jalen has and know about him, if he's going to be someone that you're going to rely on throughout the season, you still want him to get the reps next to Trey, next to the other guys, hearing Pat every time. Yeah. So they can say, we know what we have and we want to see what the young guy has. But, in this case, actions speak louder than words. And the actions are, hey, the young guy's with the 1s right now. I haven't seen a ton of video. Hate to say it, but the fan and the media video isn't the greatest for offensive line watching. Not the best angles, not the best viewpoints.
That's intentional, Mitch.
Not the smoothest. I'll probably go to camp, either probably next Monday or so. Want to see it live. I think they'll be over the 2-hour mark. Keep joking about that, but I think next Monday is going to be a nice practice coming off an off day. So I'll go there to kind of get the in person, see it with my own eyes and see how he moves, see how he matches up. The thing that's great, we talked about Kingsley last episode. Kingsley's rookie year, this is going to sound kind of bad, but he's going up against Karlaftis and Mike Dana pretty much every snap, and I think FAU a little bit. Not super tested, not seeing twitch, not seeing burst. That first Ravens game, you get Owe and you get whoever the other guy was, like, boom, like quickness off the edge.
I can look it up. Yeah.
So our guy now, Benson, he's getting our Mason Thomas quicks off the edge. He's getting some speed. He's getting Karlaftis with some strength. He's getting, a little bit of different styles, different flavors, like legitimate NFL burst off the edge and legitimate NFL
little Chris
power.
Jones on the edge.
Yeah, a little bit of Chris Jones. I saw one of those reps. I mean, just a little. Those don't even count. Chris is such a freak out there. He's, we don't really.
Yeah, I had to. I should have wrote this today. Maybe. I mean, it's hard when you're doing things on Twitter. You're like, hey, this is just the information that we have as of right now. You can go into a little bit of depth. Like, Chris Jones is not showing his best move in the one-on-ones or the team period today. Like, no.
But I mean, we've kind of mentioned one-on-one. So in terms of that topic, like, everyone loves like O-line, D-line, one-on-ones, like, and my point is always, like, we can watch them. We can say this guy won, the other guy won. Like, he showed this trait that was good. A guy losing reps doesn't make him a bad player. Even if he loses a lot of reps over training camp, like, that doesn't necessarily make a guy a bad player. I would say O-line, D-line, one-on-ones are like the least predictive thing you could do. Fisher was really bad at them. It didn't make him like a bad offensive lineman. Like, it just kind of depends.
Yeah, just the number one overall pick.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, but like, he was someone that just whatever reason wasn't as good in one-on-ones as he was, playing team football. The Chiefs do them like slightly differently than other teams. Typically you'll see a guy catch the snap and kind of be the quarterback and kind of take a set in the pocket and move around a little bit and kind of give you a feel for it. Kansas City just puts like a cloth down, a towel down that's pretty short. It's at like 5.5, 6 yards, which is not very deep in the pocket. in part because, Coach X always teaching first punch, start the fight, get on, the physical side early. So depth-wise, like, he doesn't want you to overset deep, and so the towel is, like, purposely a little bit shorter. So there's an element that, like, you're not even going to see a tackle block to a 9 or 10-yard depth of where Pat's going to be in an actual game. So that's one thing that's, like, not real. He's probably going to be taking a little bit more aggressive set, a little bit flatter, so that's a little bit different. And then we don't know what guys are working on. Like, I would go into one-on-ones one day, and maybe I want to work on this specific thing. If I'm working on that specific thing, maybe it's something I'm not good at. Maybe it's something I'm, trying to figure out the timing of or whatever, and I'm going to look like crap because those 4 reps that I take against whatever Justin Houston, D Ford, like, aren't going to work that well. But I still have to try it, and that's the time to try it where, like, it's not in a team period. It's not going to get the quarterback killed. So we don't know the intent. We don't know what a guy's working on. Like, no, you don't want to lose. We can still judge who wins and who loses. It's better to win than to lose. But in terms of making declarations on what a guy could be, what his play level is, like, we just can't get there. But we can say, hey, this guy's flashing traits, or that was a move that I hadn't seen before, or this O-lineman looks really heavy-handed when he makes contact, the defense lineman's feet stop. Like, those are things we can look into. But the whole just, like, judging entire players off of win-losses and one-on-ones, that's something that just, like, should be completely eliminated from us watching them.
I want to give a shout out to Matt Derrick of Chiefs Digest, because that man threw up 8 minutes straight of 1v1s on his YouTube channel, and I hit play so quick. And I just watched it. I'm just like, 8 minutes. It was horizontal, not vertical. I was like, this is great. I was just watching the whole thing.
Well, also, to jump in real quick, the cool thing in that is you see, I mean, usually guys get 2 reps in a row. Like, you take your rep, you get lined up, you get the cadence, you go again. Like, it's kind of fast-paced too. Like, we're so used to seeing the one snip, and from Matt's point of view, being more zoomed out, like, you can see that towel. You can kind of get a sense of, like, where the pocket is. I commented on someone else's video that was more zoomed in, like, it said that Josh won a rep against Karlaftis. I was like, no, he did not. Go look at Matt's video. You can see how far, he got pushed back. So, I think that is a cool vantage point too. If, you're not someone that gets training camp, that gets to watch O-line, D-line one-on-ones, just seeing what the actual flow of the drill looks like is kind of fun.
One of the best parts about that drill is the interior. So, not like the tackle defensive end, that's a little bit more okay. I can imagine it. It seems a little bit more like football. Like, how quickly can you get to the edge, or how quickly can you do outside to inside power moves? Like, okay, that's somewhat simulation. The interior work is crazy because there's just so much space, and that's where I think it's a little bit harder to say, like, is that a definitive win? Is that a definitive loss? And then the player who better explained that to me, Cole, was Creed Humphrey, because he never lost. There might be, like, equal reps, or you split the rep. Some people judge it as, like, if it's not a direct win for the defensive lineman, it's still a win for the offensive lineman. But yeah, sometimes you just see Creed Humphrey and you're like, this is great. Like, I don't know how anybody's supposed to get by that man
so
one-on-one.
Just I want to interrupt real quick, because you made a great point about space, especially on the interior. So pretty much all these clips I'm seeing, the offensive tackles are doing an awful job against 3 techniques. As an offensive tackle, you should take your normal split. Your split shouldn't be any wider than normal, and you should basically take one kick, mostly vertical, and just kind of stand there and be like a bumper car. Because, I mean, we're going to talk about Peter Woods coming up and some of the clips that he's done, but, like, he is getting so wide on these. Like, that's not a realistic. Like, he's going to be bouncing off of offensive tackles if he's making those exact rushes in games. So I do think there's a bit of an onus on the offensive linemen, the tackles in particular, to kind of hold the space and the width of what a guard's going to be working with. And you see these tackles that are lining wider than normal. They take one step and it's sideways. It's not back at all. And you just open this up, and it's just not realistic for what football looks like. Even if you're on the slide side or the man side, or, you've got certain looks where they got, a wide 3 technique basically lined up over the tackle. Like, you're still going to be setting vertical and dragging your hand and holding space and doing all these other things to protect your guards. And then one-on-one comes, and these guys aren't doing any of that. So there is a little bit of that I wish the tackles will be doing better.
Yeah, there's moments where whoever says hike, you can just see the other lineman go, all right, let's stand up. That's cool.
Yeah.
There's just so much space for like the actual people engaging in the one-on-one. Go ahead, Cole.
Yeah, I was just going to Peter Woods, really, because we're on subject here. What are your takeaways, though, from Peter Woods, what you're seeing with some of this context in mind? I think I watched all 6 of his 1v1s, thanks to Matt Derrick. He shared it on Twitter, and they looked pretty good. I know you guys, I heard Nate a couple times.
He looks good. I mean, like I just said, we can't say he's going to be a good player because of the stuff he does in one-on-ones, but man, you can look at those traits. He is super explosive, twitchy, change of direction. He's able to set up moves and kind of react to what guys are doing. It looks like he is built kind of lower to the ground too. Like I think he has kind of that natural leverage. I mean, Chris's whole thing was he can't be a first rounder because he plays too high and he's going to get, dominated all the stuff. But like Peter, it looks like he is stocky and lower and, has some great leverage there. I can't be more impressed just from like a trait, perspective from the one-on-ones and then seeing some of the stuff in the teamwork. He looks great, but Nate's been there and Nate's also seen it in person and talked to guys. So go ahead.
Just like Creed Humphrey, I only needed to see it once to be like, sold. That's a first round pick. In Creed's case, he was a second round pick just based on positional value, but like he was clearly the best center in that draft class. It's a lot of fun. It's wild to go from like, okay, and this is just the honest truth. Here's what they had a year ago. Here's this guy. like, whoa.
Well, the guy who was there a year ago was watching practice yesterday as a fan, and then Mike Pennell.
Yep.
Obviously, he's more of a nose tackle and more of like a space eater, but like that was the starter. And now you've got this like electric, explosive dude who's going to be in there. You sign Tonga, like that unit, that interior unit on the defensive line is so improved. And the best part of it is Chris no longer has to be like an 85-90% snap player.
That's the hope.
That was my biggest thing the last couple of years is Chris is playing such a high percentage of snaps that like, of course he's going to take plays off. Because it's not a Hall of Fame defensive tackle in his 30s unless you're Cam Hayward to like play that many snaps and be that effective as a pass rusher.
Yeah.
So
right.
Anyway, you can jump back on that, Nate.
No, it's a great point because Chris even told us in the mandatory minicamp in June, I've had to start to train to be ready to play 80 snaps. And I'm just like, are you a corner? Like, no. No. Like I know you're the centerpiece of all this. I know you're, again, future Hall of Famer, like incredible athlete, but like no defensive lineman should be like, well, I got to get in better shape to get these 70 to 80 snaps. I mean, that was the issue for him and Karlaftis last year, honestly. So, to have Peter Woods, to have Tonga, not only just be someone who can hold ground, but in the 11-on-11 team periods, if you go and watch some of these fan clips, you can see Peter shooting gaps, and that's been really fun. And how often do you see Creed Humphrey snap the ball and lose the race to the spot as to like where I want to engage you, where I want to move you? And I mean, now, this is my prior. I was one of the rare people to get a mock draft right. Okay, so for ESPN.com, I mocked Peter Woods to the Chiefs at 29 because of information. And since then,
so what you got 4 out of the 32 right instead of 3? So you're taking a victory lap over that?
Yeah, of course. Of course. There's still plenty ahead for Mansour Delane, but I think that the easiest layup in that draft class was Peter Woods, and he's demonstrated it so far. And so, let's just see how far he takes it. And you can also say the coaching staff has learned a lesson in not like Andy said that they wanted him to, work on certain techniques to Mitch's point about, hey, one-on-ones, here's what we want you to work on today, or, here's what we want you to work on throughout the course of camp. But You just do you, man. Like, we're not gonna ask you to gain weight. Nope, not gonna do that. Not gonna do that again. So it's you know, I think Joe Cullen is smiling a lot based on the clips I've seen.
I'm switching a little bit to the ends for a second, just because Ashton Gelati on this subject is a bit banged up with a hamstring, so he's not working. FAU's been getting a little bit more work. Is he looking okay? I mean, I've seen a couple clips of 91 getting after what I would consider maybe to be a sack on Mahomes, but obviously you can't, so the play keeps going. But that's him on Benson. I mean, how's he looking over there? The reason I'm asking is I feel like the defensive tackle room is just going to have to, I mean, they're just going to have to go nuclear, essentially, because I'm a little concerned about the ends.
Well, you know, you can see, in terms of traits, you can see the bend from R. Mason Thomas. And so what I'm fascinated with him is, okay, you know it's a clear third down. You know they're passing it. How quickly can he start to demonstrate, you know, why the Chiefs were so high on him in the second round of this year's draft? When it comes to Felix Anudike-Uzomah, I just want to see incremental growth. Like, right now is great because this was better than he looked last year. And it's hard to know because, I mean, yes, we have these things on video, but like, I don't know what kind of issue he was having lower body wise in terms of what he was dealing with last year. And then his hamstring snaps and they say, like, take the whole year off. So he should look better than he did last year because he's actually got his legs up under him. He's had more time to rehab and get his body in shape for camp than, say, Rashee Rice. But
he's in year four, right?
Year 4. This is year 4.
And has shown, I mean, not to be too crude, but like next to nothing on the field. Are we just happy with incremental growth? Like, being a little bit better than the last time we saw him? Right. That's right. Which is basically saying that pick is not going to show anything, and a little bit of growth is good. But like, that's not what we want to hear. That's not what you want out of a former first-round defensive end. Like, incremental growth over a somewhat non-existent first 3 years in the NFL.
Well, and what's crazy about the Chiefs' D-line last year is in 2024, FAU's win percentage was like 9.9%. That would have been the second highest win percentage among all defensive ends on the roster last year outside of George Karlaftis, which is really insane. One more question for you. I know we're pushing the edge of our limit
I have one real quick question. What was his 40 time? You remember?
Don't do this.
He's pretty fast, right?
He's pretty fast, but
can he play gunner?
He tested off the charts.
Who are you talking about? Felix?
You're going to be the 5th defensive
end. He did test off the charts, and that was one of the reasons why the Chiefs were like, hey, he was also one of the youngest people in his draft class. He was local.
No, I know the first few years the idea was like, we're going to build strength. He's going to kind of grow into the quickness and the agility and the bend and all these things.
Yep.
But obviously that got, hampered last year. I think last year was really the year for like the physical to kind of come with the mental and the ascension. Like, that was the year to put it all together. And, in year 4 coming off an injury, that's, talking about incremental gains. I don't really love that, but go ahead, Cole. Ask that last question.
He didn't run a 40, just so you know. I looked up his RAS, but he had an above average shuttle and 3-cone. It was very quick there, but maybe he ran like an unofficial 40 somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say he did one of those private local workouts for the Chiefs, and I was told he tested very well that day.
Well, typically guys do the straight line stuff. They don't do the agility. So I don't know if he had a hamstring back then or something, but the fact that I would say that he did the agilities probably shows that he's a good enough athlete and would have tested well in the 40 if he had done that. Because it's rare to do the agilities and not run the 40 these days.
Right.
It just wasn't logged, at least. My next question is just, do you have any sort of update on Omar Norman-Law? I saw somebody in chat asking about it, and I was like, well, we're talking about the D-line. He's still on the PUP list, working back from the torn ACL. Is there any sort of progress? Are they expecting him to potentially be able to work during training camp at all? Or do you have any sort of update on that?
I think for his sake, you might just want to say, hey, you're going to start the season on PUP. Or whatever, short-term IR, whatever the case may be after cut down day. They're taking it pretty slow with Omar Norman-Lott, and I think that's completely reasonable because you have to remind yourself, obviously not everybody's Patrick Mahomes when it comes to ACL tears.
But are they taking it slow with him, or is he not pushing the rehab the way Pat did, and like, is he not getting after it in the same way? Because he got hurt way before Pat, right, and had a theoretically simpler knee injury, and is months behind Pat now.
Yes.
Now, does the size of him and the position he plays, is that
of course,
playing a bit of a factor?
I play. Here we go.
Well, I mean, yes, but he's also 8 years younger.
That's true.
Yeah. Well,
I was just curious if he was trending in a positive direction.
My word of advice to the people who are interested about Omar Norman-Lott is October.
And then that's still working your way back. I mean, so realistically, it's hope to get flashes from him towards the end of the year. Maybe situational guy. Is he back to the weight he wants to be at? Can he be? I think he was like PFF had him as like a crazy high efficient pass rusher. Can he kind of offer some of that? And then, next year is really the year to kind of hit the ascension the way we're talking about with, FAU that third year. So I would say that's, maybe the realistic way to look at it. Can we get some flashes later in the year? Can we get some production? And then, guys with ACLs are better the second year anyway. So, eyes on what the room could look like next year.
And lastly, because we've seen more of Felix, I do think we're going to see Asher Gelati come back to practice within the next couple days, would be my guess. It's a minor hamstring strain. I actually saw him doing some, some quickness, some agility sort of type of work off to the side, some high knees. So he looks okay. It's just a matter of like, when do you want to bring him back in terms of a non-padded practice day before you get back to pads, which will be kind of like the weekend or to Mitch's point, Monday. But I think we'll see him on the practice field before our next episode.
Mitch smiled. I don't know why he did, but when you said high knees, I'm picturing Russell Wilson on the airplane overseas.
Bingo.
I know.
I wasn't going to say nothing.
High knees just sounded like calisthenics, like old school. Like he's doing high knees.
He's doing high knees.
You don't use your hamstring when you do high knees. And then I went from that and I went to Russell Wilson.
It's about mobility. It's about, it's about all that range of motion.
I saw Mitch crack a smile and I was like, there's no way he's thinking about Russell Wilson high knees right now.
Yep.
Of course he was.
Man,
I'm just telling you what I saw, and it looked pretty good. Yeah. So here you go. Asher Gelati doing just fine.
I feel like we had a really good convo. If there's anything else you guys want to add before we jump off, feel free. If not, I'll do some call to action stuff real quick here. But I mean, it's always a blast talking football with you guys. My voice cracked because I'm so honored, I guess. I just love to pass the baton to you guys and let you guys talk, man. I mean, you guys are great at what you do. Mitch, obviously, as a former player, you have a lot of insight. Nate, your boots on the ground, and there's some concerns about the state of this roster, but trying to look at some optimism at the end of that. I mean, I'm pretty excited about Peter Woods, and we'll kind of have to wait and see. It looks like about Omar Norman-Lott and some other guys along that line there. But that's the key to me is we had all these guys in the secondary last year, and it didn't matter because they couldn't get home to the QB. So Hopefully they can do that at a little bit higher level this year. Do you have any final thoughts, final words, Mitch, then Nate?
I mean, I'll echo what you say, man. Pass rush, protecting the quarterback, those are the kings. Most of the great defenses we've seen over the last, really course of history, but you look at the last 10 years in particular, this Chiefs run, the teams we've gone against, it's all been defensive line first, defensive line. Yes. There are very few, if any, defensive back rooms that are good enough on their own to control games. Defensive line rooms can control games. So, hoping for the best from that unit.
I just want to see Cyrus Allen in pads. Come on, man. That hype train was, it was moving, Mitch. And I did say that, think about this. In a span of 36 hours, the man had an elite practice, again, albeit in shorts. Then I said, well, guys, Puka Nacua was a 5th round pick hey, here's the whole background about why they sort of discovered him late in the draft process, and that was a shout out to Ryan Nutt who told us that. shortly after the draft and going through the whole like, hey, he was pretty good in the interviews, and we were just watching Cincinnati late, and man, he's got really good timing with like quarterbacks that aren't his quarterbacks, and like these drills or whatever in the All-Star game, to the train just coming to an absolute halt. We need training camp darlings. Why am I going up there, Mitch, if Cyrus Allen's not running routes?
He's coming back. Don't worry.
The guy throwing the ball is doing pretty good, so we got something to be happy about.
That's true. That is true. It's amazing that like I say it every year, but it's amazing how like he can throw the football, and I'm just like, yeah, that's totally normal. Wait, no, it's not. Oh, no, it's not. That's not a normal throw. And people are just like, it's like, what? Like, if the Cleveland Brown fans saw that, they would lose their minds. And he's coming off a knee injury. So yeah, just looking forward to Cyrus Allen because interested to just see how he works in as close to real football as we can get at this point of the year.
Well, next week we'll talk more about Mahomes, more about some of the progress, and then I think here soon-ish they've got a preseason game. I know it's not this weekend,
the 15th. I looked it up.
Yeah. So that next week or next Tuesday when we go live again at 7 p.m., we'll be able to do a huge preview of the preseason matchups. Just kidding, but we can at least see a little bit more progress and how that's
Miles
looking,
Garrett
how everybody's doing.
Josh Simmons.
Can I already have the take of Andy pull everybody because you're playing the Rams later this year? Don't play anybody of significance.
We'll definitely see there's going to be a lot to talk about, guys. Make sure you like and sub. We are available on audio platforms as well. People are asking about that. iTunes, Spotify, kind of everywhere. We'll be live next Tuesday, and then for a couple Tuesdays, we'll be live in the evening, and we'll eventually shift a little earlier in the day on Tuesdays. But, man, I appreciate everybody hanging out. Mitch, Nate, thanks again. This is the Chiefs Collective, episode 2. Came and went, and I had a lot of fun. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see y'all next time.